Maximize Your Influence is your podcast for the latest persuasion, sales, and negotiation techniques. Our mission is to help you influence on command, anyone, anytime, anywhere. Your host is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence. Now, your host, Kurt Mortensen.
Hey, here's a quick snippet from my podcast, Maximize Your Influence. Hope you enjoy. Subscribe at MaximizeYourInfluence.com.
That's different to persuade a millennial versus someone who's been in the workforce for 20, 30 years.
I think it's a great question again, and I think I actually go back to something that Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, the founder and ex-CEO of LinkedIn, talks about a lot. And it's this notion of how the employer-employee contract is changing, and it's going from more of the old world, which is come in and you're going to work here maybe for your entire life, and we're going to give you security and we're going to give you a paycheck, and that's what you get from us. And then we expect work and loyalty and trust and all this, and that's what we're going to get from you. It's almost like a set it and forget it type thing. I think in this new age, and I think there's a lot of factors that have kind of created this, I think it is much more dynamic and obviously short term than that, especially when you look at the early numbers that are showing how much more prone to moving positions both laterally and upward. And I think that one of the things that a lot of these people have to realize is that for better or for worse, unfortunately, there is less of that trust and less of that loyalty. It is basically saying, hey, the employee is coming in and saying, I plan on being here for a couple of years to learn skills and to be coached and trained. And then I'm probably going to take my experience and take it somewhere else. Maybe it is just to a competitor down the street. Maybe it is to a brand new company and industry halfway across the world. But that's the way that I'm thinking about things. And so I think that there has to just be that understanding, and there almost has to be this new contract of it's less now about security and loyalty, and it's more about an employer being able to tell an employee, hey, the next 2 to 3 years, however long it ends up being, I'm going to make you more marketable. And I'm going to focus on building out your resume for whatever's next, which is kind of like an unheard of thing to ever say in previous life. And then what I want from you, the employee, is I want dedication, and I want you to work really, really hard and be really, really productive and challenge the status quo. Like if there's things that we are doing that you don't think is necessarily optimized because of how adept you are with technology, let us know, and let's work together on that. And so I think that that's something that, again, is still being figured out, but it's this whole notion of a tour of duty as opposed to a lifelong commitment. And I think that that is where, with older managers, thinking through that and basically just saying, okay, if that is the context, what can I do to embrace that as much as I can? I think that that ends up obviously helping a lot more than hurting. And I think that that's how you get these millennial employees. These millennial employees will not only have more long-term buy-in, but I think it just kind of sets things off on the right foot to actually get what you want out of them, which is obviously coming in and being productive. Because I think there's been several studies that have shown that millennials, they're not afraid to work. They'll come in and work incredibly hard and incredibly smart. It's just, again, aligning those incentives and making them feel like they're not just trapped somewhere for 30 years and they're just going to be forgotten about because they've got to put in their time first. Millennials, I don't think, really like or grasp this whole concept of putting in your time when they say, well, hey, if I can do the job and if I can get the results, why can't I just go to the next level? So a little long-winded, but that's kind of how I think about that.
It's interesting. I think that's good information for people to understand that when you look at the workplace, and the big part of persuasion is adapting and persuading people how they want to be persuaded, whether they be a millennial or older in the workforce or a personality type or culture or department. I think that's very good to know. I hope, listeners, you took note of that, but that's important to adapt. It doesn't matter if you understand it, you believe in it. You have to persuade people how they want to be persuaded, and those are some good points there.
Thanks for listening. To listen to the rest of the podcast or subscribe, it's MaximizeYourInfluence.com.